This is an Eye on Annapolis bonus podcast.
Never refuse an opportunity to come to 49 West, and I'm doing it very late in the day because I'm going to have dinner here before the night is out. But we're sitting down with a principal in search of a school. Would that be accurate right now?
I guess so, yeah.
We're sitting down with Romey Pittman, who is the brain behind a new school that is going to be coming to Anne Arundel County, a new high school, in hopefully 2024, 2025, called the New Village Academy. Mm-hmm. And we've heard about, you almost expect new school or new, daycares and kindergartens and stuff like that to pop up all the time.
Yeah.
You don't hear about new schools popping up too much.
Yeah.
And we spoke with Roman, who's opening up the Acton Academy over there in Arnold. And I was like, wow, okay, now here's another school that's popping up. But you're talking about a high school. And it's different because, gosh knows that Annapolis High is what? How many? Like 1,800 students or something like that?
Oh, it's over 2,000 now, I think.
Is it over 2,000?
Yeah.
And that's just absolutely incredible. But you're talking about a much smaller type of a school.
Yeah, really different scale. And part of the reason that it works, I think, and that we've had the kind of support that we have had from Anne Arundel County Public Schools is that Annapolis High School is a little bit overcrowded, over capacity. And so it actually serves their needs really well for us to take a few students and do something different with them. Well,
what makes you qualified to open up a high school? I know I'm not. So, where is your background? What was the drive to the need for this? And I want to get into a little bit later about what the school is, but what's your background?
Backstory, yeah. I started teaching in Prince George's County in 1989. That kind of dates me.
Oh, you didn't have to do that, but okay.
And I taught high school history, and I've sort of come full circle back to my most recent job has been at Annapolis High School teaching high school history, but I'll get back to that cycle in a minute. So I started at Steuart High School, and I was puzzled right from the get-go, and really even before I started teaching, by something that I have always noticed, which is that young kids are voraciously curious, they're engaged, they're excited, they want to learn everything they can. They want to be successful in the world. And that for not every high school student, but a lot of high school students are not. They're sort of busy either resisting or sort of moving away from the engagement that we're hoping that we would see. And they even have done, Gallup poll did a study and they called it the engagement cliff, where fifth graders, 75% of them say, yeah, I'm engaged in school. I like school. And then only a third by the time they get to 10th grade. So
wow, that's a big drop.
It is a huge drop, and it's across the board. I think that's worse in communities in marginalized communities. It's worse, I think, in situations where students have learning disabilities or, there's lots of sort of pockets where it's even more extreme than that, but that's the average across the country.
That's huge. I've had classes that have bored me to death. I've had teachers that have bored me to death. Yeah. I know when my kids were going through South River, it was like, oh, Dad, can you please get me out of this class? I hate Mr. So-and-so, or I hate Mrs. So-and-so. I'm like, no, get used to it. You're going to have a boss and you're going to hate him. You're going to figure out how to get out of that yourself, which the answer for you is to take the class, pass it, and move on.
Yeah.
With this drop-off, and hopefully the school that you're going to be starting, now, this is a public school, correct?
Yeah. So a charter school is, and it's a little different in different states, but in Maryland, it is a part of the LEA. They call it the Local Education Agency. I don't know what the A stands for. But anyway, we are part of the school district of Anne Arundel County Public Schools. All our teachers and employees will be employed through Anne Arundel County Schools, be subject to union regulations, all of those kinds of things. And then, and the students are still considered Anne Arundel County students.
But is the curriculum the same? The curriculum, I'm assuming, is not the same.
No, we're going to do things really differently. So we will have the same grade levels for the most part. We have, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, but we divide them into two gateways, we're calling.
Okay.
And so there's almost like a mini graduation, but before you get to the final graduation. And those two segments, in the first segment, we're really focused on general readiness, college and career readiness, learning, making sure that the basic skills are under your belt. figuring out what you want, exploring careers, exploring options for college, all those kinds of things, building the capacity both as a human being, just self-regulation, being able to navigate conflict, being able to do the kinds of things that are just life skills as well as the academic skills. And then in the second gateway, really moving towards being prepared, and not just prepared for, but actually having experience under your belt in whatever it is that you want to do next. So in college, coursework, in dual enrollment classes, or in most, everybody will do internships, but potentially also apprenticeships if you're not necessarily college bound.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, somebody must have left the back door open, because look what the dog dragged in here. It's Darius Stanton is joining us. How are you today?
I'm very grateful. How about yourself?
I am good. And there is a reason that Darius is here, because you are involved in the New Village Academy as well. And you are the chairman, I believe, of the board of trustees, or at
president.
This point?
Mm-hmm.
Chairman, president, I believe it's president of the board. Yes, I am. I'm very fortunate.
How's the pay?
They pay me plenty of attention. It is a volunteer, 100%, no funds whatsoever tied to it. However, it is a lifelong vision, dream, and passion to create opportunities, systems, and productions, and in this case, a school that will help people live healthier and happier lives.
Well, so I'm gathering that this is sort of a school for kids that have sort of had enough of school. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm correct. I mean,
that's a good way of putting it.
But I mean, everybody learns a little bit differently. Some people will sit down there and just flip through a book and do this, and it's very procedural. We learn rote. I mean, I know my kids came home with the new math, and I'm like, no, you flip the numerator, the denominator, you add it, it works every time. And they're like, no, you do this crazy thing.
That's not how you do it anymore, Dad.
And, you don't know anything. And some people are so literal. And I mean, I think this is a really sort of a breath of fresh air in that, because the people that we're talking about that will be going to New Village Academy are probably ones that would fall between the cracks.
Exactly.
Going to Annapolis High or South River or any of the traditional public high schools.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
I want to make sure we cast the right net, because I think that New Village Academy really is the place for students who, as you said, could benefit from some coaching, more motivation, more direct engagement. And, right now, just based on the society we live in, if you listen in earshot to the news, the first 5 or 10 minutes are about who got shot, who got robbed, who got wronged. If you watch social media, when somebody gets smacked or fights, they have 1 million views in 25 minutes or 25 hours. The guy who goes up and saves a cat out of the tree has maybe 1/8 of those views. And so there's so many young people, college graduates right now, whom are feeling unaccomplished, who are feeling left like afraid, high anxiety. And so New Village is really a place for students who really could appreciate the support systems that ultimately will turn into a lifelong network. And that's what, most people have when they become successful. They have a team, whether the team's at home, whether the team's at the Boys and Girls Clubs, whether the team's some club at school. And unfortunately right now, a lot of the teams in our society are deficit-based. And New Village is just the opposite. It's
strengths-based.
It's asset-based. We're focused on your strengths. When you come in our doors, straight A or straight E, we're working with you to maximize your potential.
What's and this is, I know it's probably difficult to answer, but what is a typical day like at New Village Academy?
Not at all difficult to answer. So we have a schedule that doesn't look like other schools. Surprise, surprise, because not much about what we do looks like other schools. So when students arrive, the beginning of the day, they go to crew, which is one.
See, when I went to high school, that was rowing.
Right,
Okay,
not
so
the
it's not
rowing
that.
kind of crew. Although it is inspired by that. There's sort of a phrase from "We're crew, not passengers," and the idea that we're all pitching in. And so I just stole this idea from one of my previous gigs, which was working as a school designer with expeditionary learning. It's now called EL education, and it's a kind of project-based whole school model. And I helped kind of coach leaders and help with curriculum design for this project-based learning. But anyway, CREW is this great structure that came from there, where students stay with one teacher, and in our case, they're going to stay with that teacher for 4 years. 14 students who build a real community, a team, like Darius was saying. The teacher will do a home visit before school even starts, so that there's a relationship right off the bat between the parents and the crew leader, and then that crew leader is really responsible for those students, those 14 students, thriving in all ways. And so that first part of the day is connecting, sitting down with those students, building social emotional skills like mindfulness and resilience and conflict resolution, doing team building activities, reflecting on academic progress, that kind of thing.
I see that as being like on the beach with sand. And it seems like you're kind of just bringing it in and building it up with a strong base on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of the things that we know about, really our whole model is based on what is the science behind motivation and what makes people want to work hard and invest in something. And one of the ground rules is you got to feel like you belong. You got to feel like you're known and understood. And so if you don't build that into the structure of the day, and build the time in for people to build those relationships, you don't end up having that condition.
So in addition to crew, then they'll start to get into their coursework, right? Mm-hmm. So the classes will be still 15 to 20 students, and they'll be focused on, this is another big part about, our program. They'll be basically working to set up and choose, their path in terms of, the direction, what they want to learn. The other big part about it is, the project-based curriculum is really
community action projects, we're calling them.
Community action projects, will then take up the second half of the day. So in the morning, they'll be involved in what you would call crew, and then traditional classes, so to speak. Traditional in the sense that they'll be in the classroom.
Academic skills.
Yeah. Right. That's the reading, writing, arithmetic part of this thing.
But
even that part, if I can jump in there, even that part of that is not structured quite like a traditional classes. So it'll be a blended model where kids are doing things on a self-paced basis and on the computer in some cases, and then also being pulled into whole group what we're calling math labs or literature labs, which are a lot like book discussions. And then also learning languages. So anything that's a skill-based subject like math, like language, like those are going to take place during that 2-hour block in a blended learning model. So it can be somewhat self-paced. And then the afternoons are science, social studies, literacy, or the applied literacy, I guess would be the way to put it. And to some extent applied math in these community action projects. So the subjects kind of span the whole day, but they don't look exactly like they would in a traditional school.
Okay, and then the crew leader, and I forget the term that you used for
that's right.
The crew leader that's using this. I mean, that's his or hers, it's just a crew, correct? I mean, there's traditional, I guess at this point, they're not going to be traditional teachers, but there are going to be disciplined teachers in different disciplines teaching the academic aspect of this.
Right, so the crew leaders are teachers. And so they will morph from in that first block being a crew leader to becoming the math teacher or a
right, but that's what they always do. I mean, it's not like your crew leader is going to be teaching your English class and teaching your science class and doing your whole thing.
It's so not like elementary school,
they're just with you for crew through the 4 years of your career, which is good. I mean, I know that the public schools and the high schools have tried to do that with guidance counselors.
Yeah, advisory structures and things.
We have this, the A to F and whatever it is. So you hopefully have the same guidance counselor teaching siblings that might have some insight to the families. But again, there's so few of them and so overworked with it.
Yeah.
How many students are we talking about here?
We're talking about 150 in the first year, growing to 250 by year 4. And then staying at that level, because a big part of the model is staying small enough that everybody knows each other's name, that students' learning can really be customized around their interest. And, we can find internships and apprenticeships for a student who has an interest in, something weird. They want to be a podcaster.
Yeah.
They want to do a specific thing. If you have 2,000 students, you can't respond to individual interests in that same way.
It sounds like there's a lot of accountability on the students when you're in a situation like that. And Darius, to your point, when you talked about, with the social media and the views and everything else, I mean, I can be very, very brave behind my laptop. And I can call you whatever the hell I want. Yeah. And there's nothing that really you can do about it or I can do about it other than get your feelings hurt or get mad or whatever it may be. But that's not happening.
You can't disappear at our school.
I can't see that happening
Get fade into the background.
I mean, if you've got an issue with somebody, you're going to have to sit there and talk about it and figure out how to work through it. Yeah. As opposed to, jumping into the fighting type thing.
Well, one of the things that is also special about New Village Academy is the fact that we also have a number already of advisory board partners, members, organizations, and entities that will be working to train our students on so many things beyond what you would do in a normal day of school. Conflict resolution, how to write your resume, how to do a elevator pitch, right? Things that you learn. Some people learn when they go to college, but a lot of students graduate from college and don't have those basic skills, and so how to network, how to navigate in the workspace. I've got challenges that I don't know how to deal with. So how do I manage that? Well, I need to talk to my crew leader. I need to talk to my community ambassador because they worked at NASA or they worked at the fire department and they know what it's like when, you're dealing with some difficult staff, those real deal issues that people don't prepare you for unless you have a home and a relationship with home that can do that. And by the way, we do plan on engaging. We had a great meeting yesterday with some really active and involved community leaders who pressed us about making sure that we have the families involved in our school. And we intend to do everything that we can to partner with folks who have a pulse on the families to make sure that the families are growing as their students are growing.
Well, I've got to think that when the family's involved, and Roni, you had mentioned that, one of the first things they're going to do a family visit. I mean, I've got to think that empowers the family to get behind the success of the student as opposed to just somebody coming home and, okay, the bus is here. Okay, whatever you need to do.
How was school today? Good.
Yeah. I mean, no, let's talk about it. And, I sit on the signature board at Annapolis High and we do a number of the networking things to your point there. And I'm like, they're like deer in the headlights. Sometimes they come in and, one thing that I always try to impart on them, I said, you're meeting these people and okay, you can't do anything for me right now immediately. I get that. I mean, you're 16, 17, whatever you are. But you know what? I may know somebody and 99.9% of the adults, I mean, I'm not saying we're going to bend over backwards and, take a week's worth of time to do something for you. But if I can, without much effort, introduce you to somebody, if I can, without much effort, say, hey, this is let me look at your resume, email it to me, and I'll give you my 2 cents. That's huge. And I said, never be afraid to ask. That's my thing is never be afraid to ask, because the worst they're going to say is no. Yeah. But more often than not, they're going to say, sure, I'll figure out a way to help you out.
Right.
Yeah. I'd like to, it just hit me when you you talked about, asking and just getting help. I heard my grandfather used to sing, if I can help somebody along the way. And that's one of the things that, we're going to be really working to impart in our students, because we believe that leadership, once you teach young people how to lead, then they'll run the things that they need in their life down. Number one, they're going to learn how to ask key questions. They're going to be root cause thinkers, leaders, and not just on the surface. So you won't be able to just tell them something and they don't go look it up. They're going to watch and listen to speakers And then after they watch and listen to those speakers, they're going to go back and they're going to do the research. And they're going to find out if what they said was actually factual. And they're going to treat their lives like that. So they're going to run after their health.
Sure.
They're going to run after the proper things to eat. They're going to run after the proper environment for their families. And when they become parents, they'll be thinking intentionally about raising children in an environment that is safe, that is wholesome, that I have a place first to take care of, you know, so that they understand that I've got to be responsible, accountable again for a life. So if I'm going to bring lives in the world, then I got to make sure I have, like foxes, a hole, a den, a rabbit, you know, a bird with nest. Human beings are the ones that don't have it because we're not training children, you know, to understand that ultimately young people are going to be parents.
Well, it's unfortunate. Again, something I had heard from Signature was that of the Hispanic community at Annapolis High, that it was something crazy. It was like 40 or 50% of the parents had never stepped foot in the school. And
well, they don't feel like they belong there.
Well,
yeah, I think it's on the school to make sure that they do.
Well, they said part of it is you know, that there's the undocumentation thing.
Yeah, about that.
You know,
that's true.
What about the documented parents that don't step foot in?
Yeah, well, it's the you know, it's the government, and then there's another one that's a language barrier.
Right.
They may speak Spanish entirely at home, and you've got to buy, you know, a bilingual kid. That's, you know, and it's a difficult thing to figure out to give somebody a home. Who is your student? I mean, it sounds to me like, I mean, you were looking at and I mean, if you're looking at, we'll say, public housing, lower socioeconomic families, those are the ones that are most at risk, the ones that are going to fall through the cracks the furthest and everything else. They're going to be the ones that are going to be the most difficult to get out of a deficit. Is that your student that you're looking for, typically a lower socioeconomic student?
So we're leaning into that, especially because I think the tendency sometimes in a good charter school, when there's a good charter school opportunity out there, I think there are a lot of sort of wealthier, well-educated parents who are sort of savvy about manipulating the system, and they can get their kids in there. And so you see that over and over again, that charter schools can kind of get twisted in their purpose and essentially become a free private school for wealthy white families.
Actually, private school tuition, man, that'd be a bargain.
Right. And so we really especially want to make sure that we are building a place that is a place where students who have not been able to thrive in a traditional environment have the opportunity to thrive. And we want, of course, if we're creating that environment, we want to make sure that the students who are getting to us and finding us and signing on are also our students who who fit that category. So it's a little trickier than that, because I think we're actually talking about something, you know, that statistic I gave you earlier about a third of high school students saying that they feel engaged in school. It's a widespread problem. It's not just one group of people who feel that way. And it could be about mental health, you know, post-COVID and with social media. It can be about, feeling like my identity is not reflected in the school. It can be about, economic issues, and I have my family struggling so hard that I can't show up in the way that I want to. You know, there's so many reasons why students are disengaged, and I think it's kind of, don't want to oversimplify it and say, oh, this is the kid. This is the one person that would benefit from the school. I think it's complex and it's widespread, and students will find us and use our opportunities in a lot of different ways.
We have a youth advisory board. Mm-hmm. And our youth advisory board consists of Annapolis High School, primarily students. And they are so excited about being able to sit at the table and craft something that they realize that they're going to be gone and may not be able to benefit directly from, but they understand the value and the benefit of providing students with a sense of belonging and all those other power and influence, usefulness, and those things that the youth development strategy says, you know, children need. There's a group out of Stanford University called Positive Coaching Alliance, and they did a study on the winningest coaches in college sports. And what they found was the number one common denominator was positive motivation. It wasn't somebody yelling at a grown man, cussing them out, telling them, come on, get your S together, get out here and do your beeping job. It's the positive motivating, being able to reach that one-on-one, connecting that relationship between the coach and then the respect for wanting to do. And we've all had those teachers or grandparents that we wanted to do for.
Sure.
And we're really working to create a new village, a group of faculty and staff and team members and support staff that are there to make children feel like I want to do this for them because they want to do for me. You know, there's an environment, there's a culture that we're working to create that will empower and motivate them to like look out for it. And the fact that we have other students that are crafting it, you know, this isn't just adults saying what's good for children.
This is, I mean, these kids, as you said, I mean, they're going to be out of Annapolis High. I mean, it's going to do them no good for the most part, but that's not stay with them forever. And what's your, you know, we'll fast forward many, many years after this, as you graduate students out of New Village Academy. It's not just that community of 200 and some odd students.
Exactly.
It's building the larger community, whether it be Annapolis.
So there's some names I want to share with you. Daisha Conti, William Rao, Kenyatta Rao, Calvin Watkins, Michael Womack, Stanford Womack Jr., Myosha Watkins. These are all parents now that are working professionally in the Conflict Resolution Center. They're working in hands-on professional skill jobs. They've got master degrees in some cases. And I said those names because those were students who at a time had a really potential challenge, either at home or at school. I left my own name out because
I was going to say, where's your name come in there?
I didn't want to talk about myself, right? But in the names that I used, these are people who are having a major impact on our community right now, that are coaching young people, that are organizing sports leagues. Daisha Conti just did a program.
Braidathon.
She did a braid-a-thon to make sure that 150 students went back to school with their hair looking decent for themselves. It makes a difference when you feel good about who you were. You know, somebody takes that time and energy, and it was free. You know, Kenyatta Rao is now a master's degree holding from Virginia Tech in environmental science. He was getting in, you know, all kinds of stuff in school, you know, and you have these people. Will Rao now is the special assistant to the mayor.
And on our board.
You know. So you've got these names. Calvin Watkins he was a Boys and Girls Club member, and he was a Keystone Club member, and he never got in trouble, almost very seldomly, but he's came out of a public housing community that, you know, had a lot of shootings and trouble, and they're doing fantastic work. So we are looking to build that kind of community with these young people.
Well, again, I mean, it's with anything. I mean, with the right tools, you can do anything. And I mean, you have seen some great stories coming out of public housing. I mean, the low-hanging fruit is the shootings.
There's a young man.
The drugs.
You said it, and I apologize. It just hit me. A classmate of mine who went to Robinwood. He left. He went into the military, went in the Air Force, and made it to lieutenant. Right, straight out of Robinwood. Right, he's on the county executive's mural right now. His name is Eric Brown.
Okay,
retired. Now he's in, you know, doing contracting with the federal government,
spending that federal pension. You know, it's not a bad deal. You know,
so something that's worth kind of spelling out, I think, is how one of the community action projects could work. So, as an example, you mentioned the issue of, you know, the sort of recent spike in gun violence. And so we have a partnership with the mayor's office and the city council to use us as a youth perspective on city problems. So if they were to come to us and say, hey, we've got this issue, our students could then be, you know, in these community action projects, could engage with the issue of gun violence. So in order to do that, you have to study, why is there a Second Amendment? Like, what is the Constitution in the first place? Why is there a Second Amendment? who regulates gun control at different levels? What are the housing situations in our community, and how did they come to be? And why is it that Annapolis has some of the oldest subsidized housing communities in the country? And how do you lobby? And how do you find out what people in your community think? How do you do a survey? And then how do you analyze a survey? And then how do you turn that all around, come up with some great ideas, and bring it back to the city council and make a presentation that's powerful and professional? And so that whole cycle, that's basically a whole government course you just did, right? And it's as well as learning how to present yourself, how to speak and communicate effectively. Yeah, and you're engaged in doing something real for your community, and you grow up to be somebody like Darius is talking about, because you learned the skills, you learned all the pieces of making change, which are, you have to listen and understand the problem. You have to research it and know your stuff. You can't just be expressing opinions here and there. You got to back it up with things and have evidence. You got to be able to communicate effectively. And so all those pieces are exactly what we're trying to do.
You know what I learned just now, listening to Romey, and Romey is the professional academician here. I have a master's in human service, so I'm a professional social scientist, right? But what I heard Romey describe in our students, our profile, what our graduates look like, is what happens at the master's level.
Instead of breadth.
Depth. You learn how to do the thing that I heard about everything she said was it just took me back to getting my master's. It's doing the research. It's analyzing data. It's studying. And then it's comparing what's happening here to what's going on locally to what's going on around the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, you take the gun violence thing. I mean, it's the difference between saying, man, what are they going to do to stop it? Versus, what am I going to do to stop it? I mean, you can turn around and you can go back to Kennedy's speech.
You're profound. We need to get you on the. I'm not being facetious, because that is exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
look at Facebook.
You go back to Kennedy's speech. I mean, that's not what you can do. No, screw that one up. But that's
not what your country can do for you.
Nobody likes to live in that situation. Yeah. Let's figure out, yes, I do need support from the government, whether it be the city or the county, or maybe it's just the crisis response team or something like that. That may go, maybe it's my grandma that needs to give me a hug, because I heard a shooting. Mm-hmm. But to affect change, you've got to be able to turn around and say, well, what can we do to make this different?
Change agents. Wow.
Yeah. So we keep skirting around something I just want to kind of name out loud. We keep talking about all the pieces of it, and I keep wishing we had this vocabulary, I guess, so the science of motivation, it's got these 4 parts to it. So one is the sense of belonging, and we've been talking a lot about that. Another is a sense of purpose, is that you want to do things, you'll throw yourself into something, work hard at something, because it has meaning for you, like it makes sense. Another is empowerment, which is what you were just talking about. The sense that if you feel a sense of agency and control over what's happening in your life, where your education's going, what your job is, whatever the context, you will invest in it and work hard. And then the last one is having accountability that really matters. And so we keep talking about all those pieces, and I just wanted to say them out loud, that those are kind of the underpinnings of what we're up to and why we're doing the structures of school the way we are. Because we believe that if we get those underlying conditions right, that students will want to take charge of their own education and be the drivers behind it. And when that happens, amazing things happen.
I'm excited for this. This is awesome. Where are you going to put it?
Great question. We are in negotiations, moving very close to ready to sign a lease with Westfield Annapolis Mall to put it in the second floor, kind of above the Container Store, what used to be the second level of the old Lord and Taylor. So it's a nice big space. It's a little bit separated from the rest of the mall. People aren't wandering by, they're not looking in, and we have our own separate entrance. And but students will be right there in the hub of all this business activity. There's a public library. There's an SPCA to do internships. There's the hospital next door.
Wow.
So all these opportunities. And it's on the public transportation loop for the city and the county. And you may know more about this than I do, but they're in conversation about having that become an actual official
transit hub. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of interesting.
It's a cool spot.
The malls have really evolved. I mean, they've had to. I mean, they're no longer, but I mean, you mentioned with the SPCA, you've got the library, which is doing wonderful. The library actually, I think, even moved to a larger space.
They did, and they are getting more traffic. When they temporarily did it when the Bush Library was there, because it was like, wow, this is really working. Yeah. I mean, they've got a 7-Eleven in there, which just sort of blows my mind. But this is what it is. I mean, I heard a story about a mall up in Detroit that was going under, and they turned around, they went to Ford and said, hey, would you be willing to put a department in, a department store? And they said, sure, we'll give it a shot. And ultimately, the mall totally evolved. They've got a running track. They've got daycares. They got workout places. They've got, you go shop. They deliver it to your desk or they deliver it to your car. They've got valet parking. And it's robust now. It's pretty amazing. I think that's really Westfield's vision. They've been taking that newer part and I think gradually moving the retail more over to the other side and making room for more and more of just the kinds of things you're talking about, kids programming and performance-based live arts is there.
Oh, that's right. They've got live arts there. They've got the pickleball now.
And then we're also in conversation. So that space upstairs is a little more space than we actually need. We're in conversation with Total Healthcare, which is a federally qualified healthcare organization that's been mostly in Baltimore and has moved down into northern part of Anne Arundel, and they're looking to move to Annapolis. And they are just fantastic. They really sort of got our vision of how we want to work with and be partners with a healthcare organization. And they serve people who are underinsured and undocumented. And so they can really provide some of the wraparound services for our families, but also they can use our students to help them do research around what the community needs and to be interns in healthcare.
Sure, they've got an entree right into the community right there. That's awesome.
Exactly. And so it's really like a win-win, I think, or kind of a win-win-win for them all too. Because essentially we're like another anchor store.
Yeah. Well, quick question for you too. And I mean, this is not too dissimilar from starting a business. Does this scare the hell out of you?
It does me. Darius is much more experienced with this than I am.
I don't know why it scares her because she's open schools,
Yeah.
I tell you, Romey is like, just so that people know who Romey Pittman is. Romey Pittman is a bulldog for creative educational systems. She has created schools. She's started schools from the beginning. She's worked in schools that are still today challenging in Prince George's County and Baltimore City. And, we're fortunate enough that she cares enough about where she lives in Anne Arundel County to put that to use. And so I'm just really excited about her being the initial principal of New Village Academy, because it's somebody that knows it. But just like she talked about, she's passionate about it and she cares and she works hard, and children need people that care. They need people that are passionate, and they need people that are going to work hard for them because they're going to model that. Sure. And that's what, we're going to see. The stakes are so high that instead of it being fear, we just are super urgent about the nature of the work. It's like we don't have an alternative to do anything else because we're the kind of people that you just talked about that are doers.
We got to get it done.
And we got to find a way to get it done. And the resources that are coming, we're going to need. So for anyone listening, we're going to need support, financial support. We're a nonprofit. We just got our 501c3. Let's make loud noise.
Yeah. High five. I left my checkbook at home. Sorry. Do you take Venmo?
No, well, we take your mouth because your motivation and your encouragement to your friends. So we're going to be reaching out. We're going to be doing fundraisers. We're going to be invite 5 guests to be 5 guests and have 5 guests, so that you got 25 people. Giving donations. We're going to be looking for resources, businesses to provide jobs and opportunities, organizations to look for volunteers and partnerships and projects. So there are a lot of resources that we're going to be developing that we're going to need the city of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County and the state of Maryland to join with us to make this a reality. Because so just to get into that, just to kind of touch base on starting a new business, it is definitely something that makes you like, oh my goodness, we're here now. We got this, we got that. But we, in a very short period of time, have a board now of 16 members. We have an advisory board,
people,
amazing, super like top of their field, that care and are passionate. We've got an advisory board of county council, city council, really strong people in the community. We've got our 501c3 already. We just got our charter approved by the Anne Arundel County School Board, recommended by the superintendent of schools. So in a short period of time, we've raised already $250,000, a little more.
215 so we got this grant that is called the New Schools Venture Fund. And it is kind of remarkable, honestly. Like, I don't think people on a local level understand what a mind blower this is, but every new public education, so public or charter educational model that thinks they're doing something innovative goes to this organization and applies on a national level for funding, which comes from Gates and Bezos, and it's like all those people are funding it. And they selected 18 enterprises, 18 projects around the country that they thought were the most innovative public school endeavors for this year, and we got to be one of those. So we were selected. Impressive. Yeah, it's opening a lot of doors in terms of other opportunities and other potential funding. But it also means that on a national level, people are really interested in what we're up to. And Bedell called it a game changer for Anne Arundel County, a potential game changer. I think it's an idea that really has traction on a broader scale.
Well, okay, let's talk about a little bit of a sort of a macro, broader scale.
Yeah. Your
website is newvillageacademyannapolis.org. I can argue that we probably need a New Village Academy, glenburnie.org, and a New Village Academy Severn or Mead.org or something along those lines too. I mean, is that something in the back of your mind? I mean, let's get this one open first.
Right, exactly.
I mean, is that something in the larger picture that you would love to see happen? Is that
he makes me want to sing? There's a little black spot on the sun today. Yeah. So
what's that?
That's another song just coming to my mind, right? I think that's Please, yeah, exactly. So right now that would be the but then once we grow the model, once we start to realize the full potential of our students and the results become so dynamic, our goal, we're partners with the school system. We're part of the school system. And so, we've dealt with this thing recently where it was a negative virus, right? We're hoping to infiltrate the system with a positive virus that'll spread. And it won't just be New Village Severn, New Village Glenburnie. It'll be a motivational mindset, thought process, culture for all of Anne Arundel County Public Schools, that they would adopt a mindset of motivation. And it's not that they don't have, we're products, of Anne Arundel County Public Schools. So it has the potential to produce good products. But we're also losing an enormous amount of young people. And you talked about parents and some of the traumatic experiences that they had coming out of the school system. And so we're in a place now where we want to be able to replicate the model, but ultimately we want to be able to take the methodology into the macro of Anne Arundel County Public Schools so that more children now are engaged and not walking the halls, quitting school early, getting to 12th grade. Getting to 12th grade and dropping out.
Yeah. I think, at its best, the charter school model, and, I am personally not like a charter school cheerleader. I think it's a problematic structure in some ways and on a policy level. But like what it's best for is to be an incubator of innovation, right? It's an opportunity to do something on a small scale that a larger school system just can't do. And so we can be a kind of lab for trying out some ideas that the school system can use. And one of the places I think where that's most likely and most interesting is the blueprint, the blueprint for Maryland's future. a big part of that push is career-connected education. Their goal is to have 45% of students engaged in apprenticeships by, I don't know what the date is, but fast, soon. It's very ambitious. And they honestly do not have a clue how to scale that up. And so one of the things that we can do on a small scale is look at, what are some of the ways you could do this that don't involve having a massive investment in a CTE program with all this equipment and whatever. How could you do that and get students out in the community, getting work experience, learning the durable skills, knowing, what their interests might be without having to build this massive infrastructure that sustains it. So that's, the kind of thing that maybe people can look at and say, oh yeah, look, this little school with 250 students managed to do it. Maybe we can't too.
They're doing it. They're walking the walk and they're talking the talk.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, as we wrap it up, and I think I know what this, I think I could probably answer it, but I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. Where did New Village Academy, the name, come from?
I don't know, Darius. Actually, I think maybe it was already New Village Academy when we found each other. So, but there was a lot of conversation in the sort of very early stage founding team. I remember even having conversations with Thornell Jones, who's not been as involved recently, but, Monica Lindsay and Tim Encarnacion, who's the ESOL chair at Annapolis High School. Anyway, the evolution of it grew out of the idea that Annapolis is a village and that a village is a place where people are connected and know each other and bringing their young people up in a supportive community. And, there's the classic proverb of, it takes a village to raise a child. So that the idea that we're a new kind of village, that we're kind of refining community in a different way is where that grew from.
It's pretty much what I thought.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't want to come out with that and think I was barking up the wrong tree or something like that. This is really exciting. And I think that anybody that may be interested in enrolling, just may be interested in supporting, which I think everybody should be, whether you have a kid or not. I mean,
this is really a community project.
We're talking about our community and our, where we live. New Village Academy, Annapolis.org is where you want to start.
Or newvillageannapolis.org, or actually newvillageacademy.com, because for some reason newvillageacademy.org is not available.
So you got
but
most
any of those will get you there.
Got most of them there. And you are starting to accept students for the 24 year.
So the enrollment window, it's through Anne Arundel County Schools, and the enrollment window or the lottery opens October 9th. So really very soon.
Okay, so put your name in there. It is a lottery thing. I mean, we don't have too many seats available for 2024, but this sounds like something that we probably need a heck of a lot more than just 250 seats too, but to make it, but 250 makes...
We'll start with that.
We'll make it work. Thank you guys so much for your time, and good luck. And I can't wait to follow up and see where this is going.
I was going to ask if you would have us back in about a year.
Oh, that's a given.
About a year. Come on, we got sooner than that. We got lots happening. It's going to be an exciting process this year.
We just want to be able to continue. And thank you for promoting positive news and being a source of media that is educating and making our community aware of solutions and not one that's just harping on the negative and
I can do that too.
What's not happening, but that that you're being bold for good.
This has been a bonus podcast from Eye on Annapolis. Please visit us at eyeonannapolis.net. Follow us on Facebook at All Annapolis and on Twitter at Eye on Annapolis. And if you haven't subscribed to the Daily News Brief podcast, go for it. And all of your local news will be delivered to your phone, tablet, or smart device by 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday.